Hi there, I'm Skaji, a practicing witch and a professional tarot nerd. I'm glad you're here. Our vocabulary word this week is the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. Okay, so that's more of a vocabulary phrase, I guess. I've referenced the Golden Dawn frequently because of how important that their work has been in the development of the modern tarot. The Golden Dawn was founded in 1887 by William Robert Woodman, William Wyatt Westcott, and S.L. McGregor Mathers. Before its dissolution in 1904, the Golden Dawn counted among its members such folks as Aleister Crowley, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, Florence Farr, Moyna Mathers, Pamela Coleman Smith, Arthur Edward Waite, and W.B. Yeats, and many, many more folks from all areas of Victorian society. Unusual for society such as the Golden Dawn at that time, women were admitted with equal standing to the men. The magic and rituals of the Golden Dawn have had a great influence on the practice of tarot, as well as on magical practices and traditions such as Wicca. Much of the Golden Dawn's teachings can be found in the Rider-Waite-Smith tarot deck, which is why I reference it so frequently, even though I don't practice within that tradition. Whether your interests lie with the tarot, magic, or even that whole ball of wax, it wouldn't be a waste of your time to study, if nothing more, the history of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. This week's card is the Sun, and it was suggested by me. Thanks, me. I have picked this card to finish out the triptych of our stellar cards. The Sun is a mass of incandescent gas, a gigantic nuclear furnace, where hydrogen is built into helium at a temperature of millions of degrees. That's a little lyric from They Might Be Giants. I had this weird idea. I know that's kind of a shock, right? I listen to music as I write, and sometimes it's stuff that matches my mood of the day, or sometimes it's stuff that brings to mind the things that I'm writing about. I got to thinking, what if I made myself a playlist of music for the Sun card? So I did it. You'll find a link to that playlist in the description below, and on the channel as well. But more than that, try this at home. When you're studying a card, what song comes to mind? And then ask yourself why. And try this too. When you're listening to a song, ask yourself which card that song goes with. And then ask yourself why. Our sun is the origin of all of the energy which allows life on our little rock to exist. Light takes about 8 minutes to reach us and delivers something like 44 quadrillion watts of energy to the Earth over a course of a year. That year on Earth being about 365 and a quarter days. That extra quarter day is why we end up with an extra day in February every 4 years, like this year. And as I've discussed in other videos, like my Wheel of the Year video, the Earth's wobble on its axis gives rise to a few interesting times each year. 2 solstices and 2 equinoxes. We're coming up on the spring equinox, at least here in the northern hemisphere. The equinoxes are the 2 days of the year when the hours of day and night are equal. The solstices, on the other hand, are the shortest and longest days of the year. These 4 days each year have been used by many cultures throughout history and around the world to mark important times, spiritually and agriculturally. Many times, these days are marked by celebrations or rituals related to the sun. There are many megalithic structures around the world which align with one or more of these times. Stonehenge is the best known, but there are others all over the world. And check this out. This image shows an analemma, which is a plot of the position of the sun at the same time each day in a single place throughout the year. If you like astronomy or just want to see where things will be in the sky at any particular time, I've dropped a link in the description to an app that I use. The analemma looks kind of like a number 8, which also looks like a lemniscate, a symbol used in mathematics for infinity. On the Kabbalistic tree of life, as it's interpreted by the Golden Dawn, the sun lies on the path between Hod, meaning splendor or majesty, to Yesod, meaning foundation. If the moon represents our unconscious, the sun, seated directly across the tree, represents our conscious self. Astrologically speaking, the sun has no zodiacal correspondence. Instead, it's associated with the astrological planet, the sun. Duh. Interestingly, though, the sun rules Leo, and Leo is associated with the strength card. So you might get you some mileage out of studying the sun and strength cards together. The sun is numbered 19, and there are a couple of ways to consider the numerology of this card. One way is like this. 1 plus 9 equals 10. Card 10 is the Wheel of Fortune. One of the interpretations for the wheel is the Wheel of the Year, which is all about the passage of the sun through the sky throughout the year. A second way of doing that math is 1 plus 9 equals 10. 1 plus 0 equals 1. Card number 1 is the Magician, which can mean intelligence and knowledge, which coincidentally is another interpretation of the sun's path on the Tree of Life. This is the approach taken by Paul Foster Case in his 1920 work, An Introduction to the Study of the Tarot. To me, though, the sun seems to fit better with card number 10, the Wheel of Fortune, not because of the Wheel of the Year association, not only because of that, but as I see the number 10, it's a kind of completion along the Fool's journey, a coming back into the light after a time of darkness. Here in the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, we have a scene which feels just really sunny, but there is so much more here to unpack than simply that. So let's start with these sunflowers, shall we? Writing in the tarot, Paul Foster Case states that the sunflowers represent the 4 Kabbalistic worlds and the 4 kingdoms of nature: mineral, vegetable, animal, and human. I might also add to that they could represent the 4 classical elements of air, earth, fire, and water. And these flowers aren't facing the sun as one might expect of sunflowers. Here they face our joyful little friend. As a metaphor, what might this indicate to us? Some authors interpret this card as glory, success, and fulfillment. Maybe our sunflowers are recognizing that in this here little child. Man, I really hope that kid's wearing his sunscreen, because sunburn ain't fun. And that's something else to remember. Each card in the deck exists on a spectrum of meaning, kind of like sunlight itself. And what might feel good for a time can hurt us if we spend too much time with it. While Waite speaks of the red flag as a metaphor for the fiery energy of the sun, I think it also fits in nicely with our contemporary idea of red flags as warnings. While reading through Case again, I noticed something which got me to thinking. Is that garden wall the remnants of the foundation of the tower? Put your tower and sun cards together and see what you get from that. And the flowers on the wall are not the only sunflowers on the card. Our happy friend has a garland on their little head of 6 sunflowers, and that brings the total number of sunflowers on this card to 10. Remember when I did that math stuff with the number 19? The red feather on this card also appears on 2 other majors in this deck: the Fool and Death. This hints to me about the Fool's journey. The Fool starts out on a journey, as we all do in life, and along the way experiences change, only to be reborn with a fresh perspective. In the Death card, we don't have the Fool cowering before death. Not at all. That feather there indicates to me that the Fool himself has become the agent of change. Now, we'll dig a little deeper into all of that when we get to the Death card later this year. But back now to our Sunny card. Our little friend seems to be really enjoying that pony ride. And of course, I remember having a great time riding horses when I was a boy. And I'm sure you've already noticed that the pony on the sun bears a striking resemblance to the horse on the Death card. Here in the Pulp Tarot, we have a simpler look at the Sun card. Simpler times, the ever unattainable quest. I remember riding little bouncy horses like this one. It was fun and exciting. Mostly, I just tried to bounce enough to get the thing to actually move across the floor. And those springs there, you had to be careful with them. They were very pinchy. And childhood can be like that, right? We push the limits, and sometimes those limits push back. And that's how we learn a lot of things, right? For me, this card, as simple as it may seem, does a good job of illustrating that sense of joy expressed by the sun. One of my greatest joys in life has been watching my kids and grandkids play. When my son was small, one of the things he loved to do most of all was run. Not race, just run. He wore an expression not unlike our little tow-headed friends here in the Urban Tarot, an expression of pure joy. Now, many people run, and many of those I suspect run for a purpose. That's what it's like for us grown-ups, right? Everything needs to have a purpose. But kids run to run, and for no other purpose. In The Miracle of Mindfulness by Thich Nhat Hanh, he talks about doing the dishes to do the dishes, being present in an experience. That's kids running. They are fully present in that experience. The joy of the Sun card is something to be experienced fully. It's not a means to an end, and it's not a goal. It's a state of being. The statue in silhouette here, the artist Robin Scott explains, is of Apollo, the sun god of the Greeks. And in the sun, behind the statue, is represented a nautilus shell. The chambers inside a nautilus shell show us an expression from nature of the golden mean. Now, mathematically, the golden mean, also known as the golden ratio, is... I'm not going to bore you with all of that right now. You can look it up if you want to. But that spiral shape in the shell also shows up in the arrangement of the seeds within sunflowers. There's a link to an article in the description. The golden mean also shows up in various philosophies from around the world as a middle way. This appears in the Kabbalah as well. That third column there in the middle of the tree of life represents a balanced approach. I think it's interesting that the artist here shows us a tree-lined path, and our little friend is running right up the middle. In the Wildwood Tarot, we have a blazing sun energizing a wealth of flowers. And if I were a flower guy, I'd tell you all about the meanings of those flowers. But I'm not a flower guy. You're welcome. But this is definitely a summertime scene, filled with warmth and light. I myself have never been a big fan of summertime. When I was growing up, it just meant more work around the farm, and I don't like that heat. Here in the American South where I live, summertime means humidity and a heat that can melt just about anything. But summertime is a time of growth, another interpretation of the sun card. And we can see a metaphysical growth here too. The guidebook states, on a more complex level of human consciousness, the sun of life represents the next step into awareness of the universal mind. We can see that sunlight emanating from Ken's chest there, and look at his face. That's either really bad heartburn, or he's experiencing one of those rare moments in life where we actually feel connected to life and the universe in sublime and profound ways. The horse we've seen previously makes an appearance here in the background as the Uffington horse, the oldest known chalk figure in England, dating to sometime between the 1st and 2nd centuries BCE. I absolutely had to include the sun card from the Guardian of the Night Tarot, because Kitty, I have felt an affinity for cougars my entire life. From my first recollection of seeing one on TV, I was amazed by the beauty, grace, and strength of these animals. Cougars are the 4th largest cat species worldwide and have a range which once covered all of North and South America. And these kitties, they don't roar like lions do. They are the largest feline species which can purr and meow. In the Americas, Many indigenous cultures figured cougars prominently in their stories and legends. For some, like myself, the cougar is seen as a sacred animal. M.J. Cullinane, author and artist of this deck, interprets the sun card as indicating a time when one will be recognized for their talents and their achievements. She sees the cougar's confidence as a metaphor for the sun. And if you have kitty companions, you know that cats know they're regal, glorious creatures and just expect us mere humans to know that too. Confidence is like that sometimes. One of the things I like about this card is that it isn't all sun. We see a starry sky itself filled with faraway suns, and we get that feeling of balance between day and night. And I kind of giggled to myself when I had the thought that the cougar was reaching down towards that sun like it was a laser pointer dot. It reminded me of the idea of play in the sun card. You might enjoy a channel I like, if you like cougars. A couple rescued a cougar, and they named him Messy, and they share their life with Messy on their channel. I've put a link in the description below. In Barbara Moore's Wizard's Tarot, the sun itself doesn't figure prominently in that card. Instead, it's implied, but all around we see the effects of that energy and light. Ripe wheat, green plants, and some sort of orangey flower thingies. And on our hat there, we have sunflowers. Okay, so this is how much of a tarot nerd I am. I counted the sunflowers on our hat. Now, I can't be sure. They are a bit fuzzy, but I think I counted 32. Now, that's interesting to me because on the Tree of Life, we have 10 sephirot and 22 paths. That's a total of 32. Now, our friend here's riding a white horse like we've seen before. But unlike the other pony ride cards we've looked at, this one seems to be running. Horse people have lots of different words for the ways horses run. I can't tell if this is a trot, a lope, or a canter, but I'm pretty sure it isn't a gallop. At any rate, the horse and rider seem to be moving towards a rising sun. Dawn, a time after darkness. The sun can remind us of joy and playfulness, something we all need to be reminded of from time to time. It can show us our own potential light and hint at the greatness we're each capable of in our own ways. We can take within the energy of the sun and make it a part of the magic of our own lives. From Dead Can Dance, Children of the Sun. We are children of the sun, our kingdom will come. Sunflowers in our hair. We are children of the sun, our carnival's begun, our songs will fill the air. And let's not forget, when things are tough, it's always darkest before the dawn. Thank you so much for spending some of your time with me today. If you've enjoyed yourself, please like, subscribe, share, comment. My name's Skaji. Safe journey.